morning and welcome to Morning Moments. Thank you for joining us today. It's my pleasure to bring to Morning Moments Josh Strychalski, and I'm sure he's going to clean up that pronunciation for you if you'd like. He is a writer, director, author, and so much more. It's my pleasure to bring Josh to you. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Uh, Let me ask you a question I ask everybody. What do you do and why do you do it?
Why do I do what I do? That's, I mean, you could almost say that's a loaded question. But I guess the short version is in any, I've been an actor, writer, whatever you want to call it, since I was about 8 years old. And from the time I was a little kid, mostly those productions were church or school related. I went to a Christian school growing up, so there's a heavy emphasis on faith and the Lord. So my focus has always been, how can I use my talents to glorify the Lord? So I would say that has kind of informed my choices growing up. I mean, I haven't always been an actor or writer. Like I said, I'm currently a licensed insurance representative here in the state of Indiana. Before that, I was a golf pro. Before that, I worked in a warehouse. Before that, I cleaned toilets in a dorm. I mean, there's so many things, but everything, I guess, in the back of my mind is, how can I glorify the Lord with the talent that He's given me? Um, and then secondarily to that is to, within that work, is to show people that there's hope. Um, and I wrote a book a few years ago. It's actually two books. They're geared for kids, fourth, fifth, sixth grade. And in the second one, the first one's kind of just an exercise in writing. It's a fun story, but the writing isn't great. But the second one, I'm really proud of it. And but one of the opening lines of the book is that, because our the hero of the book is in a bit of trouble, and the hope, or the line is that there's hope, there is always hope. And for us as Christians, there is always hope because of who Jesus is and what He's done for us. So um, I guess that's kind of why I do what I do. I just want people to know that there is hope, that there is, because life gets hard. We've all, I'm sure, I know I've been through it. I'm sure you have too. Those moments in your life where you wonder, is God here? Does He hear me? Does He see me? And I just wrapped a feature film back on November the 4th, 5th. We went overnight. So that night was kind of fuzzy. But that film project was 7 or 8 years in the making. And there were moments within that my partners and I kind of were like, do we keep doing this? Should we? But we never lost sight of what God was doing in that work. And we sought to glorify the Lord through it. I think that we did throughout the production of it. I can't wait for people to see the finished product. But yeah, I'd say that's why I do what I do. Is just to let people know that there's hope and to glorify the Lord with the talent that He's given me.
Well, I do admit it is a loaded question, and a lot of people say that when they hear the question, "What do you do and why do you do it?" One of the things I have discovered I have to ask myself, why am I doing what I'm doing every day? And sometimes what we do isn't lined up by why we do it, and
Right.
that's why you look at it and go, God, is this what I should be doing?
Okay.
And when we have a lot of background, doing a lot of different things, there's going to be offers, and people ask, well, would you want to do this? And I have to say, well, I can do it, but should I do it?
Absolutely. And
And
that isn't that always the question. Like, you try to find yourself to be in lockstep, at least hopefully, you to be in lockstep with what the Lord would have for your life. And sometimes that's difficult. And like I would say, throughout the 7 or 8 years that my partners and I were working on this film, we asked that, like, is this what God would have for us? Should we be doing this? But the thing that has resonated with me now that we're finished with the production, not the post production, obviously, but the production of it, is God had us waiting. it wasn't that we were doing the wrong thing. It was just that he just said, wait, now's not the time. And I still don't completely know why, because my wife said to me right before we started, she's like, it's not like you've done anything differently over the last 7 or 8 years. You've been basically doing the exact same thing. It's just now God chose to use it and chose to take it. And I can't explain that other than, I mean, I have my theories. I mean, I feel like there was some maturation that needed to happen in my life. Um, there were some things that, needed to take place, I think. But I think ultimately, one of the things that my partners and I said was, when all this is said and done, when we actually finally do get our project out into the world, is the only way we can explain it is that God did it. And I can honestly say, sitting here today, a week and a half or so after that, I have no idea how it came about other than that God did it. A year ago, if you would have run into me, you would have said, "Hey, how's that project going?" If you had even known about it, I would have said, "I don't know if we're going to do it or not." And then all of a sudden, about 6 to 9 months ago, the wheels just started moving, and God took it. And the verse that there's actually two verses that have always kind of stuck out with me. One that I've heard since college, and it had a huge impact on me. I actually heard it from the same my freshman year of college. We had chapel services every day, and we had a fall Bible conference. And Alistair Begg came in and he preached our fall Bible conference my freshman year, and then he did it again my senior year, which was a great way to bookend my college career. But that senior year, he spoke on Psalm 31, and the verse that really stuck with me, and it's actually stuck with me ever since then. And I graduated from college in 1999. So it's been 23, 24 years. But the verse is Psalm 31, 14 and 15, which is, "But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands." And the way he preached it was, he said, look, if all you ever have in your life is sunshine, he said, your life is going to be a desert. He said, but when those rains come, when those storms come, when those hard times come, who or what are you hoping in? What are you trusting in? And so, but I trust in you, O Lord. And that verse, those two verses have been huge for me in the course of my life. And when I wrote the script for this project we just completed the production on, that verse is a thread all the way throughout. But the other verse that stuck out to me through a couple of hard times as well was Psalm 37:7. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. And that's hard because if you're like me, I mean, I have a hard time waiting. I do not like to wait. I'm antsy. I have I have things in my life that I want them now. But the waiting on this project for us, at least especially for me, was a way to see God work, to see him present himself. And if we believe in a big God, I mean, then who am I to say, all right, God, I want it now? And he says no. And the answer from and I had somebody ask me the other day, why did you guys keep going? Why didn't you quit? What made you keep going? And I had to stop and think. But the answer in my head was, it's because God never said no. He just said, not yet, not yet. Just hang on. You got a great story, but you just need to wait. And so we did. And, we never got pushback from our wives. They did question our sanity a couple times, but, that's a day-to-day thing for me. I mean, if your wife isn't questioning your sanity, then come on, what are you doing? But she did say, she's like, look, it's a great story, but I got the sense that, and my parents used to say this to me growing up too, be faithful, keep doing the work. And so we did. We just kept grinding and kept grinding and kept grinding, not knowing when or if it would ever take place. But I never got the sense that God was saying no. There was no pushback that said, no, you can't do that. And we waited, and God brought things that I didn't anticipate. Like, this was the first feature film that I've ever done. I've written novels, I've written sketches. My background is theater, so I'm used to those kinds of productions. But film, that was never really on my radar. One of my partners, Brett Varvel, he's known that he's wanted to be a filmmaker since he's like 5 years old, and that is not me. Like I say, I've been a bit of a wanderer, but I just want to tell good stories, whether it's through acting, writing, directing. I've directed a few theatrical productions, so that world of storytelling isn't unfamiliar. But when we showed up day one for this feature, I was completely out of my element, and I didn't know. It took me a minute to get my footing, but then once I saw it, it was really just again seeing like-minded people who God is using, who God is working, using their talents, their abilities to come together to tell this story that we have wanted to tell forever. And but he's like, nope, I've got all these people to come in and do it. I've got this. And so really I stood back there the first week. I told my wife, I said, I feel really small. For a long time, it was just two or three of us working on this story. And then all of a sudden there's 35 people just show up here in Indiana out
Yeah.
of nowhere. So yeah, I would say the waiting, wait for what God has. That's a big deal, because if you're pushing your agenda, you're not going to get to see what God's doing.
Josh, it's been a delight hearing from your heart. I just felt when you were talking that there are some people that's listening to this and saying, well, God's not answering my prayer. And sometimes the answer to your prayer is wait. It's not yes or no.
Absolutely.
He is answering your prayer. He says, wait. We pray not so God can hear us. We pray so we can hear God.
No kidding.
And so
No
as we
kidding.
connect with him and say, God, why, what's the deal with this? I'm waiting for you to line up to what I have for you. And part of that waiting is where we grow and we become what he wants us to be. Gosh,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Now you've seen some information what Josh has been on as we were doing this interview. If you need to get a hold of him, get a hold of him through his Facebook account and message him. If you got work for him to do, or if you got
Please.
questions for him, please let him know. Uh, and as we close this interview, uh, you've heard his heart. Now I want you to pray for him. I want you to pray for Josh and his whole family, his marriage, and all that he does, that God richly blesses him and works through his life. Josh needs your prayers and you need the practice, folks. So pray that God would just richly bless him. Thank you, Josh, for being on Morning Moments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being seeing us on Morning Moments. And if you would, keep coming back to more Morning Moments.